tour, Donald Trump was president,
Man.
and I could sense the change of the mood when I traveled. It just didn't feel the same that it did in
Right.
the beginning, even though my mission was to unite people all the way through. It was like I had to look over my shoulder a lot more
Man.
in the end. And so consequently, when I had the Zoom bomb the other day, didn't completely surprise me. It just surprised me that it happened at that time.
Right. Right. I mean, that someone would even do that. But the funny thing is, think about, did you think about this too, Phil, while you did the barnstorming? As you know, I mean, these guys also were playing. Could you imagine that? Doing the
Yeah,
traveling that you did, and you got to get out and play.
yeah,
You got
yeah. And when they finish, they might not even be able to take a shower.
right.
A lot of
Eat.
times they couldn't get something to eat, you know. And one thing I learned from them, I started doing this on my own tour. When the Monarchs would play somewhere, their bus was already gassed up. They just got on the bus and they would go, right?
Right.
So when I would go to speak, I would always gas my car up. So I knew which highway I was going to take out of the town and everything. And so I didn't stop at any store to get any gas or even buy a bag of potato chips. I did everything before I got there. When that speaking engagement was over, sometimes it's over 8 or 9 o'clock, and I had to drive 200 miles to get
Man,
back home. Hey, the
that's
thing was,
amazing.
I was gassed up. I had to stop for anything for. So
Right.
I used, so but I kind of learned that from the Kansas City Monarchs, and I talked to many people about barnstorming, but I hadn't actually lived it.
Right.
And so anyway, the book, the Dizzy and Daffy Dean barnstorming book, barnstorming tour, was the next book I wrote after the 200 city tour, and you see, barnstorming was a feature.
Yeah, it's a great book. That's a great book. But have you ever, I'm curious, have you ever had the opportunity to meet any of the drivers for the Monarchs? Any of the bus
Yeah,
drivers?
matter of fact, I did. I'm trying to think. He was up in Omaha. He was in Omaha. He's from DeSoto, Missouri, and he was in Omaha. I'll call his name in a minute. That was the only one. Now, a lot of the players drove too. Frank Duncan drove a lot.
I see, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
Frank
I
Duncan
saw
drove
a
quite a bit.
picture of him sitting on it somewhere. Maybe it's in one of your books. Somewhere I saw a picture of him in the seat of the driver's seat on a bus,
Oh yeah,
but
he drove.
welcoming people on the bus. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, yeah. Eddie Dwight drove a lot
Man,
when he during the early 30s. But then the Monarchs, they went ahead and got drivers, and I know Buck O'Neill told me that uh, one time they were somewhere and they looked up and the driver was watching the game, right? And man, they would get mad with the driver. The driver's supposed to be sleeping while they're playing,
that's right.
but
That's right.
so if he watching the game, that wasn't a good sign. And so they would sit up in the front of the bus and watch the driver.
So he don't nod off or something.
That's right. That's right. So they boy, you better not catch that driver watching the game.
My goodness, that's
His
something.
job was to rest
And by the way,
so
listeners, if you're just tuning in, I'm talking to the amazing Phil S. Dixon, author of many books on the Negro League baseball, and just a historian par excellence about not only baseball but a little bit of everything. Because at some point I gotta get you back on, just talk about your music experience and all because you've done so much. I mean, you've done so much, but we're gonna stick to the topic at hand today. But you'll
yeah.
be on a number of times because you're just amazing fellow, Phil. I wanted to
Well, I
ask
have
you,
a new book. I have a new book coming that has been kind of a top secret.
yeah, because you didn't tell me when you were on 2 years ago. I asked you your next book, and you said, "Well, I'm not gonna tell you yet." I remember
Well,
that.
well, I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's
Okay,
a couple of years ago. I had a book on Buck O'Neill called "The Rookie, the Man, the Legacy,"
right.
and I just didn't. It didn't reflect how I wanted it to tell the story, right? And I remember I was out speaking somewhere in a little town in Kansas, and a guy here bought my book and read it, and then he came to my presentation. He said, "Why is your presentation far more exciting than how you wrote that book?" And I started thinking. I said, he may have a point, because you know how you see something, you're not quite satisfied with it, but you don't know why. Yeah. Well, when he said that, so I went back and started writing that book the way that I felt I should have written it, right? And so it's going to be out probably about a month from now. And the name of the book is John Buck O'Neill, The Rookie, His Words, His Voice. And I'm going to have 11 QR codes in there, and you will be able to scan over the QR code and hear an interview that I did with Buck in 1985.
Oh, and check that out.
It's broken into pieces, and we're talking about everything from like at one point he does a great comparison of Newt Allen to Frank White. And we talking about like bus travel, what you did when you're on the bus, who you're talking to. We also talk about drugs and substance abuse and alcoholism amongst players, and how that came to be. But these are topics. I know. How about this one? I also have him telling the story about how he played in the game against Babe Ruth and hit a ball longer and far than Babe Ruth did in the exhibition.
I never knew that. Oh, I can't wait to get this book. I hope the book will be on Kindle.
You can stand right on it, huh?
I hope it will be on Amazon or Kindle, because being over here, I'm reduced to getting Kindle books now. But maybe
how about this? It's going to be released through Amazon.
Oh, good. That's all I need to hear.
So you'll be able to get it. And of course, person can always get it off my website. But the thing that you have when you're overseas is the postage will kill you. So you need to be able to get it off those sources. You're right.
Oh man, it's something. Even putting your material in my briefcase, I had to pay a little fee, because of the weight and all. But it was worth it. It's worth it. It definitely is worth it. Now we're almost out of time in one sense, but you brought up Buck O'Neill. I want to ask it gets back to what we were saying earlier, but what is this whole renaissance among some of these folks we mentioned, some of these white, and I put it in quotation marks on there, the word historians. What's all of a sudden this interest in the last couple of years with the Negro League?
Well, I'll give you a quick story. When in the 80s, when I went out to talk about the Negro Leagues, and I was a baseball card collector, I had a great collection, still do. But I would go to the shows, and I would set up at the baseball card shows, right? And I would begin trying to introduce the Negro Leagues. And believe me, nobody was concerned as long as Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Whitey Ford, and those guys were alive.
Right.
Nobody cared about the Negro Leaguers. When those guys started to die off, that's when they picked up the Negro Leagues.
Oh.
So, they didn't care. And, I would go to all these shows. Ted Williams would be there. But believe it or not, I took Buck O'Neill and Connie Johnson to their first card show and paid them out of my pocket.
Oh, man.
But you couldn't get anyone to bring them because those weren't their stars.
Yeah.
And they looked at the Negro Leagues as maybe something I'm not even interested in.
And that's so true, Phil, because I'm thinking 87, I went to the Atlantic City, the big sports convention of baseball cards, memorabilia. And I don't remember any Negro League players there.
Yeah, I was going to say Kansas City never had them.
Yeah, because back then, 87, in fact, the only black person I talked to there that was a star, was Billy Williams. I had a long talk with Billy Williams with the Cubs.
Yeah, now they would bring those guys, right? Yeah. But a Negro leaguer, pure Negro leaguer, and there were lots of them in 87 still around. You'll find this funny. I went out to Los Angeles. I had put together a set of Negro League baseball cards, right?
Right.
And so I'm going out to Los Angeles to to kick them off, and they had a Reggie Jackson show down at the Disneyland, and so I took Chet Brewer to the program with me, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I paid for a table. Chet Brewer's there signing, and all day long people would come by and they said, "Where's Lou?" And they were talking about Lou Dial, who
Oh,
was sitting up on the West Coast. And so here I come from the Midwest. They've never seen me before. And I guess they figured the only person talking about Negro Leagues was Lou Dial, but I was talking about a big time here in the Midwest.
right.
And but they just didn't know it. But yeah, all day long, where's Lou? I said, I don't know where Lou is.
That's that's really something. Now, I want to ask you, too, give now that Buck O'Neill's in the in the Baseball Hall of Fame. I want to ask you three to give me, if you can, who you think one person, a player from the Negro Leagues that you think has been missed and should be in the Hall of Fame, a player, a pitcher, and a owner, manager, something like that, executive. Those three types.
Well, I tell you what, let's start with one you didn't name. Let's start with an umpire.
Oh God, yeah. I'm saying.
Billy Donaldson. Billy Donaldson should be in the Hall of Fame.
Man.
Never. They don't talk about Billy Donaldson. And I was on the group that selected the players to get on the ballot the last time, right? And I had to fight for a couple of players to get on that ballot. And
you're talking about this time?
Yeah, in December.
Yeah, because I remember you weren't on the committee the last time.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, because I remember we had a discussion about that on my show. Yeah, so I'm glad, because I was wondering if they put you on there this time.
Yeah, well, they put me on the committee to help put the ballot together, right? But then they bumped me off when it came to voting, because see, we would deliver our selections anonymously,
right?
So they knew how you're going to vote. And so there were certain people that they wanted in. So I'll just give you this: Adrian Burgos. They wanted to get Tony Oliva in and Minnie Minoso. So they left Burgos on because he's naturally going to vote for them.
Oh.
And so people that I would have voted for, I can't vote for them. So and I was the only one who. And I can argue with you about John Donaldson all day long and convince you why he should be in the Hall of Fame, right?
Right.
But once I'm gone, and you put on there these guys who like Joe Torre. Joe Torre's only going to vote for Buck. He doesn't know anything else. And so I knew Buck would be a shoe-in because I could tell, right? And I could tell who they had. And these guys, they've been managing the last 20 years, whatever. But they bump a real historian off, and then they put Justice on there, Justice Hill. But Justice Hill is good as he is for his writing.
I really don't know Justice Hill. I don't know.
Yep, Justice Hill. He wrote for Major League Baseball, MLB.
Okay.
But he's no Phil Dixon.
Oh, no.
And so he can't.
I mean, I never heard of him. I read.
Okay, well, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, never written a book.
Yeah, I never heard of Justice Hill.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, but if they put 5 people to vote on the Negro Leaguers, right?
Right.
And then and it was 2 Black people. It was Claire. What's Claire's last name?
Smith.
Yep.
Claire Smith.
And myself, right? When it came time to vote, Claire's gone, and so am I.
Oh, I didn't know Claire was gone too. Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was kind of loaded, but in my estimation, because of the way they're handling things, you may have seen the last Negro Leaguer get into the Hall of Fame in our lifetime.
Oh, I hope that's that. No, I hope not.
Yeah,
but and it's supposed to be the next 10 years.
They're not voting again for 10 more years.
That's ridiculous.
And so if you can't get that changed in 10 more years, well, what knowledge? See, for instance, with Buck O'Neill and Minnie Minoso, there was no new knowledge